Ladies and gentlemen, this is Joseph Hewes. Thank you for watching. Now, yesterday I did a book review on a book titled Shakespeare Identified in Edward de Vere, the 17th Earl of Oxford. This is basically a book written on the topic of the Shakespeare authorship question, and that's what I did yesterday. Today I'm going to do a book review on a similar book written by a woman by the name of Diana Price, Shakespeare's Unorthodox Biography, New Evidence of an Authorship Problem, and we'll start that right now. Okay, now every book has a premise, has a reason for existence, okay, and the reason for the existence of this book is a lot of people think that William Shakespeare did not write the plays attributed to him. Okay? Now the reasoning is this. Okay, now the plays written by Shakespeare and the sonnets written by Shakespeare display a man of incredible education, of incredible knowledge of medical terminology of the day, of extreme knowledge of law terminology of the day, of extreme erudition, and a vast familiarity with the Elizabethan court, a vast familiarity with the continent of Italy and the culture of Italy. And basically, the person who wrote the plays attributed to William Shakespeare was an incredibly educated, incredibly cultured, incredibly erudite writer. And on the other hand, William Shakespeare was a commoner with no real evidence of any education at all, no evidence that he ever left the country of England, no evidence that he was ever a law clerk, no evidence that he was ever in the medical profession, no evidence that he ever had close contact with the Elizabethan court. Okay, so out of that dichotomy, you've got the William Shakespeare, the commoner on the one hand, and you've got the incredibly educated and incredibly nuanced and the greatest writing in the history of the English language, basically, on the other hand. So out of that has born the Shakespeare authorship question. Okay, and for about the last 200 years or so, people have been questioning whether William Shakespeare was the writer of those plays. And like yesterday's book that I reviewed, Diana Price takes a scientific approach in answering the question, or at least shedding light on the question. Now the approach she took was, if William Shakespeare was a writer, there would be some evidence in the documentary record that proved he was a writer. You know, there would be some kind of evidence in the archives saying that he was paid as a writer, or there would be letters, or passed from one person to another saying that he was a writer, or giving allusions to him being a writer. Some of his friends may have sent letters back and forth. There would have been evidence that that other people thought of him as a writer. The person, William Shakespeare, not necessarily the plays. Certainly there were reviews of the plays themselves, and people referred to reviews of Shakespearean plays and of the Shakespeare play that came out. But there was never any evidence that William Shakespeare actually wrote plays or wrote anything. And that is the premise of what started this book, okay, of what she decided to do with her research. Now, she thought that, okay, well, what about other writers of the day? Okay, and I guess her main claim to fame is that she coined the term literary paper trail. Okay, and what she decided to do was she would get the top 15 or 20 Elizabethan era writers of the day and see if there was any evidence that she could find that they wrote, that they were paid to write, that there were letters back and forth talking about their writing, that they had been, whatever. A literary paper trail. And what she discovered was, for all the writers on the list that she had, like Ben Jonson, and I guess there was a guy named Drayton and a bunch of others, all of these writers of lower stature than William Shakespeare, there was plenty of evidence that they had written, that they had been paid to write, that they had patrons who paid them to write, that they sought patronage to write, so on and so forth. But for William Shakespeare, there was none. Okay. For each writer, there was different types of literary evidence that they had written. For William Shakespeare, there was none. I think it's a wonderful book. You should read it. Anyone should read it. Even if you don't believe in the authorship theory that I just espoused, you should read it. You'll find out what we think, and who knows, maybe you'll be convinced. This is Joseph Hewes. Thank you for watching. This is Shakespeare's Unorthodox Biography, written by Diana Price. New evidence of an authorship problem. I highly recommend this book. Thanks for watching. Joseph Hewes signing out.